Today we are here in a busy State House cafeteria looking at our newest show here for the month of February. It is called The Alchemy of Seasons, and this show is presented by Washington County Mental Health Services. It's an interesting show. I'll give you the rundown from their coordinator. Her name was Mary Kay Casper, and she was in charge of this project. We worked closely with her and her team. They've got a group called Shockwave Studio at the Learning Collaborative Community Developmental Services as part of Washington County Mental Health Services. And this is a seasonal show, so there are 4 different seasons represented here through the art. As she notes, as the seasons cycle yearly, we too are impacted by their expression in both our inner and outer lives. They offer us the opportunity for transformation and alchemical change, encouraging a newer state of awareness and knowing. This cyclical process is especially noted in the lives of individuals living with intellectual disabilities. Writing and art encourage engagement in the world. The expression of individual and collective stories leads to a growth of confidence, encouraging self-determination while enhancing wellness and wholeness. As displayed through these works of art, each season has a story to tell, a transformation to expression, and creates an alchemical change with the individual, which opens them to discover their unique talents, brilliance, and beauty. These works of art and literature teach us all to embody the seasons with a deeper knowledge of our stories. And these pieces really do speak to that. There are different mediums that are used here. Many of them are incredibly colorful. The art that's sort of in the front part of the cafeteria on the main white walls near the servery here is all summer pieces, and it sort of cycles from here around to the back granite walls where we move towards fall and those sort of autumn colors, and then towards winter on the back granite wall by the speaker's office, and from there building back into spring, and it cycles back around here to summer. So it's a cyclical show that way. And it really is incredible. I was lucky enough when we hung the show to meet a couple of the folks who are taking advantage of Washington County Mental Health Services and are involved in this program, and did some of these pieces. And very colorful. It's a nice sunny day here today, but on these cold, dark winter days, these pieces by and large are really lighting up the cafeteria here, really bringing some brightness. There's also some poetry that some of the folks involved with this program have done as well. So I would certainly recommend that you come and take a look around. For those who are not familiar, Washington County Health Services is a comprehensive community mental health center that provides mental health and developmental services throughout Washington County's community, and over 8,000 individuals are served annually by this private nonprofit organization. This is sort of an outreach of their community development services program that provides services to children and adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities and autism. The Community Developmental Services Program is a designated agency for services for all of Washington County. And again, they've done some pretty incredible work here, all kinds of different ways that they are expressing themselves and expressing the 4 beautiful seasons that we have here in Vermont. So if you do find yourself here in the State House during the month of February, I would encourage you to take a few minutes, walk around the cafeteria here, and check out this really interesting show.
Good morning, my name is Rob LeClair. I'm a state rep from Barrytown, and I'm here with Tasia Avery. She is a student from Spaulding High School, but she's also here as a representative for VSAC to talk a bit about VSAC and what they do and how it's going to affect her in her life going forward. Good morning, Tasia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, good. So tell us a little bit why you're here, what you're hoping to learn, and talk to us a little bit about VSAC.
So I'm here as a field trip for AP US History to learn about the government and just the way things are run here. VSAC is actually sponsoring this field trip, and VSAC offers a lot of unique opportunities to go on college field trips, and they help with college readiness, and through their talent search, I know at Berry City they choose students as early as 6th grade who they could see going on in college, and they just recommend them, and then they talk to a VSAC outreach counselor, and they talk about all the different financial aid things you'll need to know going forward, and like saving for finances for college, and just deciding which college is right for you and what career path you want to go down.
Wow, excellent. So have you gotten to sit on any committees today or hear any testimony about any particular issues at the State House?
Well, today I saw the House Government Operations Committee, and what they were doing is they are going through all the different charters in the state for all the different towns and cities, and they're making all the pronouns gender neutral, so they and them rather than he and her or the mayor, and just so it's all inclusive to everyone.
That's right. In fact, I sit on government operations, and that's part of my job today is to go around and talk to the members from other communities that their charters are going to change. So what other things are you looking to learn while you're here, and what are you looking to do after you get out of school?
So while I'm here, I'm just looking to learn about the government and the way things work, because I have a pretty good understanding, but there's nothing like learning in the moment. And after school, I'm looking to be a domestic lawyer or just involved in law and government as a whole.
Well, that's an excellent career. This is a great place to take a look at that because that's where a lot of laws start, is here, for sure. So tell us a little bit about VSAC and how that's going to help you going forward and how it's affecting your life and others.
So VSAC so far I've gone on different college trips, and they just give a real understanding of the kind of school you want to go to and what you want out of college, as well as helping you finance college. They offer several different scholarships, and they just make college more accessible for everyone rather than the select few who can afford it.
Well, I think that's excellent because, as anybody would know, college is a huge investment, one in time and money. And obviously, if you have an idea of what you're looking to do when you get there, even give you an opportunity, because I know we have some dual enrollment types of classes out there at the high school that you can get some college credits for, and those certainly can work out for you. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say while you're here today?
Not really, just thank you for having us.
Well, it's been a pleasure to meet you, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Beck. I'm a representative in the Vermont House of Representatives from St. Johnsbury, and I serve on the House Ways and Means Committee. We deal with issues that surrounding taxation. We're right now working on setting the education tax rates for the different school districts around the state of Vermont, and we're also my personal interest is working on pension liability reform and also education finance reform, which is kind of a big topic this year because we have a weighting study which indicates to us that the weights that we assign to pupils in Vermont are not correct, and that there might be equity issues in the state, and there are also rate equity issues in the state. So we have a statewide education funding system, and so it's very important to me that if we're going to give tax rates to districts, that those tax rates should be assigned in an equitable manner. So I spent a lot of time working on that. And it's been a little exciting the last couple of weeks. We've had a veto vote. We're probably going to have a veto vote next week on the minimum wage. And so those are always exciting, and we'll see how they turn out.
Hi, I'm Dave Yacovone. I'm the state representative for Morrisville, Elmore, Worcester, and Woodbury. I serve on the House Appropriations Committee. I just thought it might be helpful to give you some insights what a typical day is like, and more importantly, perhaps some substance of the issues. House Appropriations usually meets 5 days a week, unlike many other committees. And we start early in the morning and we run the whole day, taking testimony from all of the numerous departments of state government. What I'm seeing this year is troubling. It's an ongoing pattern. We heard from the Battered Women's Network. They haven't received an increase in appropriations since 2008. Our home health agencies, who play a critical role in the social safety net, helping seniors stay at home, for instance, they're losing literally millions of dollars because they're not paid what their true costs are. Our community care homes, last year we were able to give them a modest increase. The only increase they'd received previously was one in the last 12 years. They still need help. What I'm trying to depict is a system across the board of state government that's frankly in dire straits in terms of serving Vermonters the way we want to be served, the way the most vulnerable among us want to be served. I had testimony the other day from a local mental health agency who serves many Vermonters, but in one program that serves the severely, persistently mentally ill, schizophrenia, etc., one client had 5 different case managers in 5 years. And in that kind of work, as you know, relationships are critical. So what does this mean to ordinary, hardworking Vermonters paying their taxes? I don't think anyone wants to increase their tax load any further, but we want our government to work because many of these vital services ultimately become a cost shift on us. The cost of a broken person, whether they're fighting depression, whether they're fighting substance abuse, whether they're fighting some chronic illness, whether they're struggling with parenthood and all the challenges, it's borne by us in one form or another. It may not show up as digits on a balance sheet that we can easily track, but it's part of the Vermont we know, and we want to keep it healthy as much as we can. There aren't any simple answers. I'm part of a team of 11 great people who I think highly of on the House Appropriations Committee. We do our best to sort through this, to live within our means, but to never be indifferent. Thanks so much for giving me this opportunity.
Hi, I'm Representative Becca White. I represent Windsor 4-2, which is the district that encompasses most of the town of Hartford. That includes the villages of White River Junction, Wilder, Hartford Village, and some parts of Queechee and West Hartford. I serve in the Transportation Committee, which in the House, and we have been working on a lot of things this year. We have 2 big bills that we focus on every year, the DMV miscellaneous bill, which does edits to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and then we also have the T bill, which is the fund, the large separate transportation bill fund. So every year we try to put those into, we try to take bills, smaller bills, and put them into kind of either of those 2 larger omnibus bills, and we at the House side have the T bill first. Then during crossover we get the DMV miscellaneous bill, and Senate gets the T bill, so we do a swap halfway through. And in the T bill this year, we're working on a bunch of different things. Some of the highlights that I'm excited about are the electric vehicle incentive program. We had an electric vehicle incentive program created last year, but continuing that into the future and adding even more funds potentially. We're creating a climate section of the T-bill, which has some public transit stuff going into it, bike ped, or bicycle and pedestrian. As you can see, we're acronym heavy in Transportation Committee. Transportation Demand Management, or TDM, which is a way of getting large employers, businesses, even municipalities or government bodies to plan for transportation use, trying to lower single car trips. Yeah, having it either connecting to a public transit route or connecting to carpooling, biking, all that stuff. Other ways to get there. And then the other important thing is the Transportation Climate Initiative, which is a cap-and-trade or cap-and-investment style regional approach to lowering our greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector. About 40, I think it's like 45%. It was 43, and now I believe it's 45% of our greenhouse gas emissions in Vermont come from transportation of some form. So to be able to lower that using a regional approach is very exciting. So that's really like the bulk of everything we're doing.
Hi, I'm Representative Sarah Copeland Hanzas from Bradford. I'm also the chair of the House Government Operations Committee. Our committee has been working on S54, Cannabis Consumer Protection Bill, which would fill many of the gaps that we have, I think, in the current landscape around the way we treat cannabis for adult use. It is currently legal in the state of Vermont for an adult to use and possess cannabis. You can grow your own. However, there's no way to purchase cannabis. So if you are an adult user and you cannot grow on your own property or maybe in your own home because you've got young kids around, you're a little out of luck. And that has led a lot of people to the situation where the only place they can find cannabis is in the illegal market, illicit market. And that brings forward a whole lot of concerns and questions about the safety of what you can find on the illicit market. Concerns about safety, not only about the cannabis flower that you might smoke, but concerns about safety for products that you might find in an edible form. And also, you all remember hearing about the vaping injuries that are most closely linked to people who report having used illicit cannabis vape cartridges, many of them imported from outside of the country, but none of them regulated, certainly not regulated in the way that, for instance, a tobacco vaping product is regulated in the United States. And so for all of those reasons and more, we really feel like it's time for Vermont to move out of this sort of gray zone of a legal product but you can't buy it into a situation where we have a regulated product, regulations to make sure that the cannabis doesn't have pesticide residue in it or mold or mildew from the drying process, as well as testing for potency and consistency in terms of what the potency means, so that as a cannabis consumer, someone would know what are they getting, and what is the potency of it, and how much they should consume in order to safely consume cannabis. And for all of those reasons of labeling and consistency of product, we think that a regulated industry is safer. Now, there's been a lot of pushback about concerns about youth access to cannabis, and so it just so happens that today is VSAC Day, and so there have been a lot of high school students in the State House today, and we had a little bit of downtime in committee and had a group of high school students from my neck of the woods in visiting with us today. And so, a couple of the more conservative members of my committee wanted to ask these young people about their thoughts on cannabis and about the prevalence of use of cannabis within, their high school. And it was surprising to hear, they're pretty open and honest that, kids are taking it from their parents and bringing it to school and selling it. And so I asked them, if you, or theoretically, if one of your classmates wanted to go to a party on a weekend, would it be easier for you to access alcohol to take to that party, or would it be easier for you to access cannabis? And they all three said, hands down, without missing a beat, that it's much easier for them to get a hold of pot than it is to get a hold of alcohol, because in order to get a hold of alcohol, they have to ask somebody to go into a store and break the law. And people are less willing to do that than the folks who are selling cannabis out there, because they know they're breaking the law, and they do it consistently. So they're breaking the law if they sell it to me, and I'm a legal user, and they're breaking the law if they sell it to a 16-year-old. And so the more that we can do to give adults a way of purchasing a regulated product in a legal way, the fewer customers these illicit growers will have. And then there are many aspects of the bill that actually indeed go that next step forward to try to create a way for people who are currently growing to come into that regulated and legal market, so that they no longer have the incentive to try to sell, out of the back of their car or to their neighbors or whatnot. So there's a lot of misinformation out there right now about exactly how Vermonters are polling in terms of what they think about cannabis. If you ask the question, should cannabis be should cannabis, now that it's legal, be taxed and regulated in order to create revenue for highway safety and for youth prevention, it polls very high. In upwards of 60% of Vermonters agree that in the current landscape where we have a legal product, that it does make sense to move forward with a legal market. And our deliberations in the House have also supported that, because many people who, 2 or 3 years ago did not support legalization are now coming to say, yes, we do want to see this bill pass. We want to see this bill move forward. It is time to put this consumer protection in place, and then, oh, by the way, use the revenue to do a more robust youth prevention program. The other thing that the students who were with us today talked about that I have noticed myself, just from my kids who graduated from high school here in the last few years in Vermont, is they said that other than 9th grade health class, there's no prevention. There's no drug addiction prevention. There's no alcohol or tobacco prevention. And they said, the rates of use of not only tobacco, and particularly in vaping tobacco, but also in alcohol and cannabis, are really through the roof. There's a correlation there. We no longer teach kids what happens to your developing brain when you start using substances like that. We just tell them don't do it, and then, of course, as the kids said, we usually try to turn around and do exactly the opposite of what our parents told us to do, just to try it out. So if we want to have safer choices for kids, I think what we need to be doing is providing a wider variety of after-school activities and a late bus transportation system for kids in a rural area, so that kids are staying involved in healthy activities, and then we also need to beef up the education so that they understand the brain science and the chemistry behind what addiction means, and really the lifelong changes that can happen to a young brain after abusing alcohol or nicotine or cannabis. So all of those things are objectives of ours to move forward and really keep kids safer. The bill right now has been through the Ways and Means Committee and is waiting in the Appropriations Committee. A little other update that I think is important for people to understand. We've had this question about whether there should be some sort of local option or revenue sharing for municipalities who may see, an increase in traffic or an increase in law enforcement needs because of the cannabis industry coming above board in their town, because we're not creating a new industry, honestly. We're just bringing it out of the shadows. And so what the Ways and Means Committee voted on today, unanimously, although one person was not here in person, so wasn't allowed to have his vote recorded, but they all agreed to create a local fee structure so that in addition to any local option tax that a municipality might already have, which is that 1% local option on the sales tax, local municipalities can also charge a local licensing fee, so that a grower or a laboratory or a manufacturer or a retail establishment, if they're going to be licensed in that community, would pay a local license fee to that municipality, which would, go towards defraying any additional cost to the municipality of having them there. So we think that's a great development. The Appropriations Committee is going to work on the bill next, and we expect it to be up on the floor sometime the week of February 18th, 19th, something like that, so next week. So that's the update on cannabis, and feel free to reach out if you have any thoughts. You can find me on the legislative website. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon or morning. Currently, the Ways and Means Committee is considering revising, substantially rewriting the renter rebate program. As many people know, the renter rebate program was first conceived as a way of allowing for the fact that renters in some manner pay property taxes, even though they don't see them directly in their rent that they pay landlord monthly or whatever. And the renter rebate program has been around for quite a while, but it turns out it's unduly burdensome both on landlords and on applicants. It's very complicated, and we've heard from the tax department that the error rate on people who apply for a renter rebate is annually about 61%, which is outstandingly high. It's a tremendous burden on the tax department. And it's also true that many people who should qualify and take advantage of the renter rebate program don't, largely because it's so complicated, and they just don't avail themselves of the program. Further, it turns out that the renter rebate program, which was conceived as a way to amend for or make contribution towards a property tax, should really be conceived as a renter subsidy program, particularly for lower income Vermonters who are in need of this subsidy. And so what we are likely to come up with is something that is far more simplified, would not involve the landlord's certificate that they have to fill out every year, would make better allowances for larger families with less income, and the application fee, or excuse me, the application itself would be far more simpler, and some of it would be nominally automatic. We would propose to start with adjusted Medicaid, gross income, which is a known factor that has what we need to know, what tax department would need to know, having to do with a applicant's income, and not add a bunch of bells and whistles here and there, or subtractions and additions and various other kinds of things, and come up with something that would be really much more equitable, we hope, and much simpler, and would reach the Vermonters who need it most. We should say Ways and Means is not dead set on this. We have some things we have to learn first about how it would work. Most specifically, who would benefit more, better, hopefully those who deserve it, and who might see a reduction in what they would receive from the state. And we have to make sure we do that carefully and in a timely manner. But I think that Ways and Means really wants to do something like this if we can get it to work. Thank you.